Okay, this is going to be political philosophy, and then commerce, and then economics. So we're starting here with a classic, Machiavelli's The Prince. And get it out here. So everyone should read this, whether you're interested in philosophy or politics or not. This is a really interesting, written by an Italian in, I'm not sure what the era was. Let's say it's 17th century. Not sure though about that. You've probably heard the term Machiavellian, which usually means evil or looking to screw people for your own interests. You have to keep in mind that Machiavelli was writing about the best ways to be a prince in that time. And this was a time in Italy when states were often warring with one another for land. So Machiavelli was not necessarily, if he was alive today, he would be ashamed because people attribute him to being evil. But he was merely being practical. He was telling people, well, this is the state of nature in these days. This is how you will efficiently survive as a prince in Italy in this era. So calling Machiavelli evil is not, for his last name to be attributed with evil is, I'm sure he would roll in his grave to hear that, but absolutely he advocated princes to be fairly ruthless with other countries. Like, for example, he talked about where if you're going to war, you should be careful in helping allies take over other allies, because then they'll become bigger, and then now you have a greater threat. It's almost better to keep people small, and that's what essentially the HRE did, which was who ruled over Germany. HRE, just look it up, Wikipedia. HRE kept the German states scattered so as to keep power. So that's why it took so long to form the state of Germany, and why Germany was such a mess for so long. So another thing that Machiavelli advocated was for, if you're going to hurt someone, hurt them enough that they can't retaliate. If you go and just punch someone, they're going to hit you back, right? They're going to get you back. But if you pound someone so hard that they can't recover, that's what you should do, because then they can't retaliate. So things like that, obviously it sound very evil and ruthless, right? But those were the only ways to survive as a prince in that era. So next is Richard Peters on Hobbes. And here is Hobbes' own Leviathan. So this is about the state. It is supposed to be a classic about the all-encompassing state, and that we need the state and all that kind of stuff. So here's Rousseau's Discourse on Inequality, and also the social contract. So that's his advocacy for government in those fashions. There's Locke's Two Treatises of Government. And yeah, here's Tolstoy's On Civil Disobedience and Nonviolence. I don't know how excited. Maybe I should show you the covers. So here's Thomas Paine's Rights of Man. This is a classic. One of the founding fathers, I think. He hasn't really talked about much, but he certainly was a writer and advocate of those times. And he certainly had a role. He wasn't, I don't know if he was necessarily one of the signers, but he was certainly, he had a role in the U.S., the American Revolution. There's The Public Philosophy by Walter Lippmann. I don't think I've read that one yet. There's another one that's similar that I've read, but not that one. So, talks about democracy. Here's Robert Nozick. So this is another Nozick that I had up from the other philosophy shelf. Anarchy, State, and Utopia. Here is Liberalism and Its Critics, edited by Michael Sandel. So this is it'll be a whole bunch of people in there. Here's I think it's Isaiah. Yeah, Isaiah Berlin. 4 Essays on Liberty. Haven't read those. Here's Ayn Rand's Return of the Primitive. I have read, this is a collection of papers, by the way. there is a paper in there called, I'm pretty sure it's that one. It's called the Comprachicos or something like that. Okay, so I'm just going to start this video again about halfway through because I noticed looking at my other videos, because I had my webcam in my hand, it's shaking a lot, and I'm also just not even in the right spot for looking at the book. So I've got it mounted now, so now it won't be so shaky. So I left off about here, I think. So next one is this one, Ayn Rand, another collection of essays, The Voice of Reason. So just look up that and it shows you what's in there. Now here's a few little pamphlets from the same kind of objectivist stuff. Healthcare is not a right, and man's rights, nature of government. But those will be contained in any other readings, so those aren't really necessary to go and look for. Here's, of course, the Communist Manifesto by Marx, or at least about it. Here is John Ralston Saul's The Unconscious Civilization. I remember when I picked that up, I thought it was interesting, the back of it. It's a critique of democracy. So here's a book I'm going to start very soon, this one here, called Icarus Fallen. So you may know the story of Icarus from Greek mythology, by Delsol. So this book is about whether human beings can inevitably progress, and so it uses the myth of Icarus, and Icarus is the one who, to escape the maze, his father built him wings using wax to secure them, and his father tells him not to fly too close to the sun, not to be too proud and to reach too high, or the sun would melt the wax, and then of course the wings wouldn't work and he would fall, and he did. And so that's a testament to this Delsol author, whether the idea of humanity inevitably progressing. And so he talks about that no, human beings will not inevitably progress, and that there'll be reasons for progress. Okay, next book is Libertarianism by Boaz. So this is just a tour of the basics of libertarianism. And there is there was something in the back here that I thought was neat, and I thought I'd show you. I think it was it's like a map or something that showed where you would fall conservative. Oh wait, here. So have a look at this. Hopefully this comes up. If I can make it so it isn't. There we go. Oh geez, looks blurry. I think that should be good enough to read. So if you are for personal freedom, but not for economic freedom, then you're a liberal, or a modern liberal, I should always say, because they've taken over that word. If you are for economic freedom, but not for personal freedom, then you're a conservative. If you are for freedoms in neither, then you are authoritarian. And if you are for freedoms in both, then you are a libertarian. So. And of course, you don't necessarily have to sit at the polls. You can be somewhere in the middle, but that doesn't mean you are necessarily in a truer position. That's where you are. So, interesting. Next book here, I picked up I saw the author, and I was like, well, why not? Because I studied this author a little bit in my master's program. Martin Buber, so he's a Jewish thinker, religious, obviously. He wrote this Paths in Utopia, and I bet this will be some kind of socialist state. So Martin Buber is famous for his I and thou. It's about personal relation with others. So he is certainly a collectivist. That is an easy thing to say about him. Oops. By the way, these little markers, if you ever see them, these are just to mark different sections of my shelves. So I just recently picked this up a couple days ago, the Marx Engels Reader. That's got to be something everyone should have. Marx is certainly a well-known political writer. He has some criticism of capitalism, but offered none of his own. He didn't offer his own consistent, or didn't offer his own complete theory in replacement of it, but he did have criticism of capitalism. So now this is sort of going into commerce now, and then economics will be the next part. I guess I'll do those in a separate video.